Welcome to our channel, Crime-Loom, the place where true crime stories come alive. Dark music fades in. Police sirens echo in the distance. A quiet London night hides a monster in plain sight. Young women start vanishing, attacked near bus stops, their lives taken without reason. The city grows terrified as detectives race to find a face behind the fear. This is the shocking true story of Levi Bellfield, the man the media would call the Bus Stop Killer, one of Britain's most cold-hearted murderers. In the quiet suburbs of West London, a series of brutal attacks would soon terrify a nation. Young women were being targeted, struck down on quiet streets. The killer seemed to vanish into the darkness, leaving almost no clues behind. This is the story of Levi Bellfield, one of Britain's most dangerous and heartless serial killers. A man whose crimes shocked the country and whose cruelty still haunts families to this day. Levi Bellfield was born on May 17, 1968, in Isleworth, West London. He grew up in a large family, one of several children. From a young age, he showed signs of aggression and trouble. When his father died, Bellfield's behavior became worse. At school, he was known as a bully. Teachers described him as violent, disruptive, and obsessed with controlling others. By his teenage years, he was already involved in fights, petty crimes, and stealing cars. After leaving school, Bellfield drifted between jobs: nightclub bouncer, wheel clamper, and security worker. But behind the tough exterior, there was something far darker. He enjoyed using his power to intimidate others, especially women. Throughout the 1990s, his behavior toward women became increasingly violent. He was controlling in relationships, often threatening partners and using physical force. Friends and neighbors later said he was charming at first, but frightening underneath. He had several children with different women, and many later described living in fear of him. Still, no one could have predicted that this abusive man would one day become a serial killer. Everything changed in February 2003 on a cold winter night in Hampton, West London. 19-year-old student Marcia McDonnell was returning home after watching a film with friends. She got off the bus just a short walk from her house. Moments later, she was attacked from behind and struck repeatedly on the head with a blunt object. Her injuries were so severe that she died 2 days later in hospital. The attack seemed completely random. There was no robbery, no sexual assault, just pure violence. Police were baffled. The killer had left almost no evidence. For months, detectives searched for clues, but the case went cold. No one knew that this was just the beginning. A year later, in May 2004, another young woman was targeted, but this time she survived. 18-year-old student Kate Sheedy was walking home late at night in Isleworth. As she crossed the road, she noticed a car acting strangely. It turned off its headlights and began to follow her slowly. Kate, feeling uneasy, crossed the road again, but suddenly, the car sped up and hit her deliberately. The impact threw her across the street. Somehow she survived. Kate suffered serious injuries but lived to tell police what happened. She remembered the make and color of the car, a white Ford. That detail would later become a key piece of evidence against Levi Bellfield. Just 3 months later, on August 19, 2004, another tragedy struck. 22-year-old French student Amélie Delagrange had missed her bus home. It was late evening, and she decided to walk across Twickenham Green, a quiet park in West London. She never made it home. The next morning, police found Amélie's body on the grass. She had been struck repeatedly on the head in an attack eerily similar to Marcia McDonnell's murder. Once again, there was no sign of sexual assault or robbery, just brutal, senseless violence. Detectives began to connect the dots. The locations were close together. The victims were young, blonde women attacked at night near bus stops. The killer had a pattern. After Amélie's murder, the police launched a massive investigation called Operation Yetis. They reviewed CCTV footage, retraced bus routes, and questioned hundreds of witnesses. Then they found a breakthrough: a white Ford courier van seen near the scene of Amélie's attack. The same kind of van that had run over Kate Sheedy. The police traced the van to Levi Bellfield, a man who worked as a wheel clamper and bouncer in the area. When they looked into his past, they discovered a disturbing pattern of violence, jealousy, and control. They also found he had access to several cars matching the descriptions seen in multiple attacks. Police decided to put Bellfield under surveillance. They watched him carefully for weeks, noting his movements and behavior. Finally, in November 2004, they arrested him. In 2008, after years of investigation and preparation, Levi Bellfield went on trial for the murders of Marcia McDonnell and Amélie Delagrange and the attempted murder of Kate Sheedy. The courtroom was packed. The victims' families sat silently as prosecutors described the brutal attacks. Kate Sheedy bravely took the stand and pointed to Bellfield as the man who had tried to kill her. The evidence was overwhelming: CCTV footage, witness statements, and forensic links between Bellfield and the vehicles used. Bellfield showed no emotion during the trial. He denied everything, even smiling at times, but the jury saw through his lies. In February 2008, he was found guilty of 2 murders and 1 attempted murder. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, with no possibility of release. However, the story didn't end there. 6 years earlier, in March 2002, a 13-year-old girl named Millie Dowler had disappeared on her way home from school in Walton-on-Thames. Her disappearance shocked the nation. For months, police searched desperately. Posters covered the streets. Her parents made public appeals. Sadly, 6 months later, Millie's remains were found in Woodland in Hampshire. Her killer had left no clear trace. It wasn't until years later, after Bellfield's conviction, that detectives began to suspect he was responsible. CCTV footage showed Millie walking past a bus stop near Bellfield's old home. He had lived just a few yards away at the time she vanished. In 2011, Bellfield went on trial for Millie Dowler's murder. The evidence was circumstantial but strong enough to convince the jury. He was found guilty once again and given another whole life sentence. That meant he would die in prison. The public was horrified by the details of the crimes. Bellfield was labeled the bus stop killer because many of his victims were attacked near bus stops late at night. He became one of Britain's most hated criminals. The press described him as a cowardly predator who took pleasure in attacking women. Even behind bars, Bellfield remained manipulative. He made numerous complaints to prison staff, refused to cooperate with police, and often tried to control those around him. But justice had finally been served. Families of the victims spoke of their relief, though the pain would never go away. In later years, Bellfield has continued to make headlines from behind bars. He has confessed to more crimes, though many remain unproven. Some investigators believe he may have been involved in other unsolved attacks from the same period. In 2023 and 2024, reports claimed he had written letters confessing to additional murders, including the killing of a young mother and child in the 1990s. However, police are cautious. Bellfield has a history of lying and seeking attention. What is clear is that he remains a dangerous, manipulative individual, even from within his cell. To those who knew him, Bellfield seemed like an ordinary man, a neighbor, a father, a worker. But underneath that mask was a cold, calculating predator. He targeted women who were alone and vulnerable. He struck quickly and without warning, leaving almost no evidence. His attacks were not about money or sex, they were about power and control. Experts later described him as a psychopath, with no empathy or remorse. He took pleasure in dominating others and watching them suffer. It's important to remember that this story is not just about a killer, it's about his victims. Marcia McDonnell, 19, loved art and film. She had her whole life ahead of her. Amélie Delagrange, 22, came to London for adventure and study. Her bright future was stolen in an instant. Kate Sheedy, 18, survived but carries the scars of that night forever. And Millie Dowler, 13, was a cheerful schoolgirl whose disappearance broke the nation's heart. Their families have shown incredible strength and courage. Through their pain, they've helped raise awareness about violence against women and the need for better protection and policing. Levi Bellfield's crimes changed how British police investigate violent offenses. After his arrest, authorities improved CCTV systems and data sharing between police forces. They also paid more attention to patterns in unsolved attacks to catch serial offenders sooner. Bellfield's case became a reminder that evil can hide in plain sight, behind an ordinary face, a friendly smile, or a neighbor's door. Today, Levi Bellfield remains in HMP Frankland, a high-security prison in Durham, serving multiple life sentences. He will never be released. The world outside has moved on, But the pain he caused lives on in the hearts of the victims' families. His story stands as a chilling warning. Sometimes the most dangerous monsters don't lurk in the shadows. They walk among us unnoticed until it's too late. As the years pass, the names of his victims remain symbols of innocence stolen and lives cut short. Marcia, Amelie, and Millie will never be forgotten. Their memories live on, reminding the world of the importance of vigilance, compassion, and justice. In the end, Levi Bellfield's story is not one of triumph or fame, but a dark chapter in British history, a story of cruelty, loss, and the tireless fight of families and police to bring a killer to justice. And though he will spend the rest of his life behind bars, the impact of his crimes will echo far beyond those prison walls. Soft music fades in. The camera lingers on flickering candles and old photographs of the victims. Levi Bellfield will spend the rest of his life behind bars, but the pain he caused will never fade. We remember Marcia McDonnell, Amelie Delagrange, and Millie Dowler, lives stolen far too soon. May their stories remind us to stay watchful, to seek justice, and to never forget the victims behind the headlines. Music fades out slowly. Subscribe to Crime-Loom, and join us as we unravel more heists, mysteries, and untold legends.